Greetings, folks. Sealer here. Many of my regular viewers know that I don't care to share seal clubbing matches on the channel. I don't want to encourage the practice, but I think it's okay that a skilled player does play at the lower tiers now and again, either to get some relief from some of the upper tier game toxicity or to help a newer player learn the game. But once in a while, a player either myself or a colleague will experience a lower tier match that kind of blurs the line between seal clubbing and carrying. And I think that this match is going to be an example of that. I will leave a link to a playlist of a couple other replays I have on the channel that also sort of have this line or blur this line between seal clubbing and carrying in case you're interested in seeing some more examples of this. Now, this match is courtesy of my colleague Infidel, who is located in Australia but plays on the North America server, and he is sailing for us the premium Tier 5 Italian battleship Giulio Cesare. This is a Tier 5 domination match on fault line, and it's short-sighted because at the time that he was playing this game, it was early morning U.S. time when there were relatively fewer players on the server. Infidel's ship is commanded by the Italian legendary commander Luigi Sansonetti, and he is going to take advantage of a couple of the talents, or he is going to activate a couple of the talents of Sansonetti during this match. Now, we're going to start off here with Infidel moving over to the between Alpha and Bravo with relatively few players on each team. Spotting might be a little bit difficult early in the match. There are 2 destroyers per team. Here, Infidel is sending out a salvo against the Iwaki Alpha, and he is going to land a devastating strike, activating the first talent. I forgot the name of it, but it extends the main battery range of the ship by 8%. When you get a kill on an opponent using Sansonetti. So that's the first of 2 talents that will get activated during this match. And in fact, one other comment, the Iwaki Alpha is actually, I think, a quite rare ship to see in game. And so you may have noticed in chat that that Infidel apologized to the Iwaki Alpha player, but the player was good-spirited about it and said it happened. So in any case, Infidel gets his first kill. He did not earn first blood for his team because the opponents took out the Infidel's destroyer over at Charlie for first blood. So there are only 2 destroyers, or well, at least there were 2 destroyers for Infidel's team. He has one right now, which is the V170. And for the next few minutes, Infidel is going to operate from this protected position that's sort of northeast of the Alpha Cap and firing into the Bravo area. Now, I think this is okay. Obviously, you want battleships to tank for the team. But with these lower tier matches, you end up seeing a lot of sort of suicides. And in fact, we're going to see that Infidel's team is going to rapidly be depleted of ships pretty quickly. And this is where we're going to transition into, this isn't going to be so much of a seal clubbing match as it might be a display of carrying. In fact, the Allies have now just lost 2 more ships. Fortunately, the Allies did take out one of the opposing ships in the process as well. So they are still working with a 1-ship deficit. They have Alpha. They're just about captured Bravo here. So they've got a modest point lead. The opponents are still working on getting Charlie. And like I mentioned, Infidel's working from a protected position here. The Königsberg that is on the northwest side of Bravo, he doesn't really have a need to be there. If I were playing a Königsberg, or frankly at any tier, in a situation like this, I would do what Infidel is doing and leverage the terrain and let the V170 or whatever destroyer was out there do the spotting for me so I can get some protected fire. There's no really need to expose yourself. And both the Königsberg in particular, as well as the König, could be operating from a protected position. And as in this case, the opposing New York or whatever opposition is moving up and basically putting themselves in an exposed position, can be fired upon with impunity. Now, Infidel changed his focus to the Marblehead that is on the west side of Charlie, and unfortunately, that salvo is going to miss. And Infidel's going to move up here because he needs to obviously be able to keep fire on the opponents. The New York that is in Bravo is pretty close to going down. Unfortunately, the V-170 is going to make a suicide torpedo run. In fact, you can just see he just took another hit. He's down to 42 hit points. There you see a few torpedoes that he's sending on the New York, but he has now been taken out by the New York. And so the Allies have no destroyers, and so that's really going to limit their spotting. And between the Koenig and Infidel here, they're going to have to move in and kind of and do their own spotting, and Infidel's going to need to start tanking for the team, which he will. Now, looking at the tactical situation, the Allies have rapidly lost a number of players. They're down to a 3-on-6 situation, so they have a 3-ship deficit. Although one other mention I should make here, the opposing Giulio Cesare is captained by Giffen, GF, who is a regular member of a number of a number of Warships forums in Facebook and other places, and he also runs his own YouTube channel as well, and I'll leave a link to that channel in the description below. So a shout out to Giffen as well. The Allies are about to lose their Wyoming as well, very low health, and that's gonna, once he goes down, that's gonna leave Infidel and his allied Koenig as the only ships remaining for their team against a body of 6 ships. Fortunately, he doesn't get it quite a very good strike on the Marblehead, as the Wyoming does in fact go down. The Marblehead's a very squishy ship, and so it's probably a little bit frustrating that Infidel hasn't been able to get a better strike and take the cruiser out. And the cruiser is going to, I think, survive this next salvo, get into some cover, and start moving into a more of a flanking posture. Now, the challenge that Infidel has is there are 2 battleships that he's immediately going to face. One is going to be this Wyoming that we can see directly in front of him. Oh, one other thing that I didn't mention earlier, I am using free camera for this match. Infidel has some fairly aggressive panning and zooming practices, which work for him, but can be kind of disorienting for some viewers. So I have been using free camera for the entirety of this match, as he lands a beautiful broadside hit on the Wyoming, landing a couple of citadels and erasing, well, what looks like about 2/3 of the health of the Wyoming in one shot. Infidel, in my opinion, is handling this very well. He's keeping his bow toward towards Giffen in the Giulio Cesare while he looks to try to finish off the Wyoming. He wants to try to avoid, obviously, being in a crossfire situation. Fortunately, his front guns there are blocked by the terrain. He does get a little more chip damage on the Wyoming. But again, he's trying to angle in a way here that he's not broadside to either of the battleships if he can avoid it. Looks like Giffen has redirected his fire to the Koenig. And this is giving Infidel an opportunity to make a rotation here relatively safely and put his next salvo into Giffen. You can see that there's some fire coming in on Infidel from his stern side. That is from the Marblehead that previously escaped behind the island on the northeast side of Bravo. And here, Infidel's going to make a good choice here. He's turning away for 2 reasons. One is he wants to angle against Giffen in the Giulio Cesare. Unfortunately, he does take a pretty strong hit there, but he also is able to keep the terrain between himself and the Wyoming. As Giffen gets a little more, as Infidel gets a little more chip damage on the Giulio Cesare. You can see some more fire coming in from the Marblehead. Right now, Infidel's going to have to ignore the fire from the cruiser for the moment. And it looks like now the opponents are focusing on the Koenig because he is much lower health than Infidel. And once they take the Koenig down, that's going to leave Infidel in a 6-on-1 situation. We can see that the Wyoming is just about to burn down. There he goes, and Infidel gets his kill. So a lot of things transpired there. First, the Koenig went down but the fires set by the Koenig on the Wyoming killed the Wyoming, and at the same time, Infidel was able to finish off the Giulio Cesare. That left him on a 6-on-1 situation very briefly. He does take down the very low health destroyer, and now is going to sail away from the other destroyer. So he obviously has an opportunity for solo warrior here, but he is facing some crossfire both from the cruiser as well as the destroyer. The destroyer, obviously, the big risk is going to be torpedoes. So he's just going to, the best thing to do whenever you've got a destroyer is to sail away. That makes it harder for them, often makes it harder for them to hit. If you are in direct line with the destroyer and they have sent, here he sends a shot out on the Marblehead to try to finish him off, which he does. So now he's brought it down to a 2-on-1 situation. But generally, if you see the torpedoes coming towards you, turning into torpedoes is almost always the right choice. But if you detect a destroyer, and they have, as far as you can tell, they haven't sent yet, sailing away from a destroyer is often the best thing to do, just to try to get some distance from them, because it's much harder to torpedo an opponent that's going away from you. Now, we have just activated the second of the 2 talents that are going to be activated by Sansonetti in this match, based on getting Confederate, and that improves the reload of his main battery by 15%, and that is definitely going to come in useful as he finishes off the T-22 and earns himself Kraken Unleashed. And there's another set of torpedoes. So that's going to leave Infidel against 1. And there is the 1. It is the Oktyabrskaya Revoluция, who is full health. So the Revolucja has some pretty strong artillery if it's played well. And we're going to see how this matchup is going to go down. Infidel has used 1 repair party charge. He is, I think, going to use the second one. Yes, he is going to use the second one right now. And he's going to fire AP, I think, for this salvo, but he's going to switch over to HE at some point because the Revolucja is going to stay bow on to him for a while. And in fact, here you can see that not only has he switched to HE, but you can also see the benefit of the talent activated with Sansonetti on the reload. He's gotten it down to about a 20-second reload, which is very good for a battleship at this tier, or frankly any tier. And he's just going to move in on the Revolucja. Now, the Revolucja, it has a good gun systems, but it is pretty squishy side on. So if Infidel is able to execute a drive-by with AP, he has the means to delete the Revolucja, but the Revolucja could do the same to Infidel. The Cesare is not known for having very strong side armor, and when it's broadside, it is quite vulnerable. So he has to be careful about how he does this. But so far, the Revolucja has been firing HE, and so Infidel has not had to worry too much about the angling, but he has continued to stay bow in. Now, the Revolucja is going full broadside here. Infidel has switched back over to AP, and he's going to start working the battleship this way. Looking at his record, again, Kraken Unleashed, he earned high caliber when he was at about 87,000 damage done. So that's a reflection both of the lower tier as well as the short-sightedness of the relatively small number of opponents on the team. And he's up to now 128,000 in damage. He's going to, again, keep his bow on the Revolucja, even though the Revolucja has continued to fire HE. And the previous salvo wasn't quite as strong, but this one's very good. He gets 13,000 in on the Revolucja. That brings the Revolucja down to less than half health, whereas Infidel's been able to conserve the majority of his health. He's used his 3rd repair party charge and is at about 3/4 health. And now he's going to get all of his guns in on this because he knows that the Revolucja has been firing HE. With the front guns, he gets a little bit of damage, and with his back guns, he's going to get a little bit more. It's going to bring the Revolucja down. There, the Revolucja, if he had AP loaded, he could have really done a number on Infidel, but he continues to fire HE, and with this next salvo, Infidel finishes off the Revolutia. And so with that, I bring you, well, what was a great come-from-behind win. Solar Warrior, Kraken Unleashed, Confederate High Caliber, devastating strike, 6 kills, 2200 base XP in a 9 versus 9 match on Fault Line. So I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below, and as always, we hope to see you out there on the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.